Hello, everyone, and welcome to Melvin. We are a strange and unexplained podcast where we talk about, the weird things that other people probably don't really look up. I'm Nicole, and this is Tori.
Yellow.
So, as per usual, I have no idea what she's talking about. Sometimes I have a slight idea. Today, I have absolutely no idea.
We went
So-
in not saying nothing to one another, which is going to be fun.
Right.
Ooh, I'm excited.
So, what are we talking about today,
So
Tori?
we know that when someone dies, like we know who they are. If they were murdered, we can figure out possibly who did it. Was it the spouse? Was it the children? Was it the butler? Like you have
Yeah.
some idea.
The classic clue questions.
Yes, absolutely. But this one, we don't even know who the deceased person is.
Okay, so is it just we know their cause of death, but we don't know?
No.
Oh, okay. So it's a complete question mark.
Oh, yeah. No, it's complete
Okay.
question mark. So this is the Somerton man. Somerton, he was found. The reason why he's called Somerton man is because he was found on Somerton Beach, which is located in Australia.
Okay.
This is all Australian thing. A man, so there was a couple doing a morning walk on the beach as they do, and they see this guy, and they're pretty sure he lifted up his arm, so they're like, all right, he's drunk. So they ignored him and kept walking. There's a couple other witnesses that saw him and were like, just assumed he was like just drunk or waiting or just being a weird homeless maybe guy. Which when you find out what he's wearing, I don't think he was homeless.
Oh.
But they're like, just ignored him. So then the same couple, they walk by again the next day and they still see him. But this time he's not like moving at all. So that's when authorities were called and he was pronounced dead. So this was December 1st of 1948. And he was reported at around 6 to 7 in the morning as being found and dead.
So people saw him walking around essentially.
They didn't see him walk at all. So he's propped up against a wall, like a concrete rock or wall for like some beaches. You know how they have like a ton of that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm not a beach person. I just know it's sand. But he was propped up. They said his feet were crossed. And he was found with one cigarette tucked behind his ear and another one like tucked between his like shoulder and neck, almost like he dropped it. So they're thinking like the wave up from what they saw on November 30th was him like trying to smoke and it fell off. So he was dressed in really nice clothing. In fact, I have a description. One moment. Sorry. So he had boxer shorts and a singlet, and then underneath these clothes, he had a white button-up shirt, a thin red tie, light brown trousers with a brown sweater, and a double-breasted coat to match.
Wow.
His shoes were polished, and one of his pant pockets had been repaired with an orange thread, which was very unusual.
That is weird.
So he had polished shoes. He was looking like he was fancy, and apparently during that time, they wore a lot of times with this fancy wear, they would wear a hat. He didn't have a hat, so people thought that was weird.
That is kind of weird.
I mean, I think just this formal dressing man on a beach is weird, but...
Right. Yeah, who wears like really nice clothes in a place where you're going to have sand everywhere?
And polished shoes. I had like... I've checked, I read so many different articles of the same thing, and that was something that was presented in a lot of them, was that he was dressed really nicely. His clothes, they weren't like tattered or torn. However, all of the labels for these clothing were removed.
That's also extremely strange, because if you're rich, you normally want to keep that on there because that's part of your bragging rights, is saying, I have this brand of clothing. 'Cause it's in the late 40s, right?
Yep.
So brands are a thing. Like I think brands became a thing starting in the 20s. So brands are a thing.
He had some brands. I go over here. I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure it out, man.
Which is that is weird.
Yes.
It gets weirder, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Oh no.
So authorities, when they go and pick him up, what they find on his person, they find in his pockets an unused train ticket to Henley Beach, an unused bus ticket to Glenlil? I don't know. I'm sorry.
No, you're okay.
I'm not from Australia. I'm from the United States, and I have problems speaking English. They found a pack of the best gum there is, Juicy Fruit.
Oh my gosh, yes. Did it only last like 13 seconds of flavor back then too?
I don't know. I assume so. Probably worse. But he also had some matches, a aluminum comb that some people said was from America, a pack of Army Club cigarettes that contained 7 cigarettes, but they were not the brand. Like, what was in the container was not the same brand
as what he was smoking.
No, what he was smoking was the same, but what would happen is that the cigarettes from the Army Club cigarettes, they were exchanged. Like, instead, the cigarettes were from a much expensive brand called Kensitas.
Well, he might have just done that so that people didn't want to steal his cigarettes if he had the
maybe. Like, he's like, nobody wants these Army Clubs.
Yeah, right. Even though he's on the beach with really easy to steal dapper clothing.
Yeah. No, he was very dapper. He was quite the fancy. But so he had 2 tickets to something that he didn't use at all. And then Juicy Fruit, which I guess makes sense if you're a smoker, maybe to hide your breath if you're a businessman.
Yeah, gum I don't think is that weird to think of if he's a smoker.
No. The American comb apparently is a very strange thing for him to have.
So you said it was aluminum?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the standard for combs back then?
Because I know metal comb. I don't know. I assume it's not cheap.
Right.
This guy clearly had some money for whatever reason.
I mean, to carry your comb with you, that is true.
Oh, I don't know if like during that time, I know like the 60s and 70s, carrying a comb was popular. You know, got to fix your hair. That's all.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know about this time though. Maybe it just started. I don't know.
It could have.
But when they brought back his body to be autopsied to figure out what had possibly happened, what they found is that they predict that he probably died around 2 a.m. in the morning. They found his kidney, was it? Or his liver? His liver was swollen. Like, it was 3 times the size that it should be and just filled with a ton of blood and liquids.
Wow.
So that was weird. And his pupils were smaller than normal. So they were very tiny, apparently. So doctors was like, he must have been poisoned, is what the assumption is. But they found no traces of poison within his body.
Or alcohol or...
They did find that the last thing that he ate that was in his stomach was a pastry. That's about it.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking maybe it was like alcohol poisoning for a moment.
There's no markings on him, like whether or not like a needle perhaps being injected or anything like that. Like none of that. No bruises. No scarring even. He didn't have any tattoos. There was no identification on this guy. Nobody knew who he was. They did his dental records. No dental. They took his fingerprints. Nothing for fingerprints. Like, he was just... There he is.
That's so peculiar. Like, a rich guy going missing. Because if you're dead, then that guy's missing somewhere. No one has...
Yeah. No, he wasn't. He didn't match any of the missing reports. They checked all of it, and he didn't match any of the descriptions. Nothing. He was a man in, like, his late 40s, early 50s.
So by that time, you would venture to guess he had a family or something.
Yeah?
Not a young
You
guy
would
that'd be
think.
easy to go missing because he's probably bachelors. I would guess, like, just based on, the standard back then, he'd probably have some kids by then.
Oh, and he was in some good shape too. They said that like he had toned muscle, he was pretty good for like his height. His weight was like perfectly healthy, and his calves apparently were very muscular. And they said that his feet or toes were like oddly twisted to where some doctors predicted that he one either wore high heels a lot or two was a ballet dancer.
Wow. Huh. The heels isn't that far-fetched for back then because I know they used to wear, like, propped-up shoes. At least
Yeah.
the men would to make themselves look taller.
But one person was just like, I think he may have very well been a dancer of some sort because his calves were so well defined.
Wow.
Nope.
That's interesting.
So, but there's no poison, no markings, no identification. So police are like, well, how we need something around. So a couple weeks later, about a month, I think, a month and a half later, they find a suitcase at the Adelaide. I think it's Adelaide because this is Adelaide, Australia.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, they found it at the train station, the suitcase that no one has claimed, and it was there. The people that were out the train, they're like, yeah, a guy set it down, but he hasn't come back for it all. So they're like, this has to be his. And when they open it up, they do notice that the clothes in there, there's only 3 items of clothing that still have a label of some sort on it. The rest completely gone. And the label that was on these things was like Kinney, Keane, or it would say T dot and then that name. So almost like
Okay.
a nameplate, like whenever you have your stuff. But they looked that up to try to see if they could track anyone, and they found somebody with that name, but they're alive. And it led to nothing else. They're like, no, we're all fine here. So
So
it
maybe
was
he stole it.
very interesting. In one of the pants located in the suitcase, there was a sewn in pocket of the same thread in which they found that orange thread, which is apparently an American brand at the time. And that's why they found it to be very unusual because it was something that you wouldn't have been able to export over. You would have to have carried it with you.
Oh.
So they found that strange.
So the person that they figured out like who the actual person was because they were alive, were they Australian?
Mhm.
Okay.
Pretty sure. Yeah, they were just like it was a dead lead kind of thing. So, but they found this little like in one of the waistbands was this hand sewn pocket with a tiny little rolled up piece of paper that said Tumon Shud, which is Persian for it is finished or ended. Yeah. Which this guy is also known as the Tumashud man.
It
So.
is finished.
Yeah.
Man, that is so weird. It's also weird we're talking about this because we just had Easter pass up, so we've talked about,
Oh, yeah.
because that's
Didn't
what
think about it.
Jesus said.
Which on this piece of paper of it being that it was from, they could tell, the last page of a collection of poems known as the Rubelist. I think that's how you say it.
Rubalist.
Let me make sure. It was. I wrote it down, man. Where the heck did you go?
It's
Should have put it
okay.
in quotation marks.
It's the
Did
story
I?
of my life. I can't
No.
read my own handwriting. It's a struggle. My teacher, I'll spare some time while you find it. So my teacher roasted me one time because there was a paper that didn't have a name on it because I was notorious for forgetting to put my name on my papers in school, and my teacher was like, "I know this is a boy's because the handwriting's so bad," and then I was like, "That's actually mine," and yeah, my handwriting's horrible. So if you have bad handwriting, it's okay. I understand your pain. Let's band together and remember to put our names on our papers so we don't get roasted by our teachers. Yes.
That's awful.
Yeah. So what was the poem called?
So it was the Rubaiyat.
Rubaiyat.
Rubaiyat of Omar. I'm gonna butcher this. Khayyam.
Okay, it's Persian though.
Apparently it was a very rare edition, a New Zealand edition.
Oh.
So apparently this collection of poems was translated in different languages, and this from the last page that they had it was a rare one. So they sent out a worldwide thing saying, "Hey, we're looking for this book with the last page ripped out." It's like, this is what we're looking for. And about 3 months later, this couple of guys come into the thing and they're like, "Hey, we think we have the book." And they hand it to them and like, "Where'd you find?" And on the back of this is like some code that needs to be figured out and translated kind of thing.
Oh my gosh.
And they're like, "Where did you find this?" It's like, well, the guys were visiting from somewhere. It doesn't quite say. But they were visiting and they left their car. He usually leaves his car unlocked just because there's nothing really in there of any use. And they were off on the beach and they had assumed when they got in the car, they saw the book, but the two guys just assumed it was the other guys. So they didn't say anything about it until it popped up and they're like,
so someone left this book in their car.
yeah, just threw into the back seat. I'm like, that's weird.
If this guy was murdered, his killer's having a lot of fun playing Clue right now. Is what it sounds like. That's weird.
I have no idea.
Because at first I was like, maybe the guy just wanted to go out with a bang and confuse everyone. But no, it's a book being found randomly in someone's car that was not previously there. Sounds like someone's playing some games.
I mean, it was close to the beach in which the guy was found. So it is possible that this man is still trying to play tricks and just opens the door, throws it in there, closes it, and goes off to do something.
Wow.
Well, commit suicide if that's the theory of going with it. But yeah, so, and in this book, along with that code that's on the back, there are also 2 phone numbers in the front. So they call the numbers.
Right.
The first one leads nowhere. It's like a deadline. Doesn't do anything. And then the second phone number, they get in contact with a nurse. And I found a name on one of the things that I read, but then there were also like 2 other articles I read that said that she wished to remain anonymous, so they don't have the name of her.
Oh,
I don't know. But anyhow, so she had said this like, "Oh yeah, I did have a copy of that book before, but I had given it to a man named Alfred Bocklill. I don't know, man. It's Bokkell.
Okay.
But Alfred. Gave it to Alfred. And they're like, maybe this is Alfred. We got it. They look up the name to try to figure out where he is. This guy is very much alive, has a family. They see him, and he still has his copy that he was given of that book. So it's not him. And this was before or during World War II, had happened, because she said that she gave the book when she was working as a nurse in World War II.
Okay, I keep coming up with like, well, maybe this happened, but there's such far stretches. Like, I'm in my head, I'm like, that's such a stretch, because I keep stretching for like explanations. Like, oh, maybe someone saw that book and was like, I'm gonna copy it in case I need to use this book for this like really heinous thing I want to do in the future. But there's so many things that would need to happen for that specifically to occur.
Yeah.
It gets worse, doesn't it?
Well, no, I mean, the nurse, they're like wondering, okay, well, that wasn't it. So she's sort of their only lead. So they ask her, it's like, well, do you know this man? And when she walks in to see the cast of him, because they plastered a cast of his torso, so that way it would be more recognizable and preserved, so they could get like other people to try to identify him.
It's still got to be difficult though, because without like skin pigments and seeing like, minor body markings, it's probably not the same. I probably wouldn't recognize a plaster cast of myself.
No, I can't recognize a celebrity that walks in the grocery store to me. I guarantee you, I would just be like, oh, they look like this person, and that's it. And it winds up being that person. I'd be the worst at that.
That'd be my luck.
Yeah, but they walked her in, and they say that she acted strange. Almost like she was playing it off like, oh, I don't know who that is. But she fainted upon seeing the cast of it. And they're like, that's weird.
That is weird because plaster cast honestly just looks more like a statue than anything.
Yeah, they're like, what? So they think that she knew more than what she was saying.
Mm-hmm. Like, she was like, oh, it can't be the person I'm thinking of. And then she sees and she's like, oh, crud.
Yeah, and so they're like pretty sure, but she doesn't say anything. And then later on, like, she winds up passing away, so you can't say anything. She whatever she knows, if she knows anything, it's gone. It's in the grave. But the theories on these things is interesting. One is that one seems a bit far-fetched, is that he was with this woman, the nurse, and that they had a child because apparently the child looks like him. I don't know. I didn't see anything. I didn't see any pictures of them either, so
This sounds again like someone wants to make a movie.
I know, right? And or like regardless, even if like the child is that he got rejected by her and it's like a scornful love, either one, she poisoned him, or two, he poisoned himself. Which there are the doctors of the time in which thinking it's poison knew it's like there are two substances that would not be detected. Mm-hmm. Like that I wouldn't be able to tell. And even in the court case while they're trying to figure it out, he whispers to the judge what these two could be and the one that he thinks it is.
Because he doesn't want other people to know, because
Correct.
Then that could cause issues later.
Yeah. So he's like, I'm not going to say it, which you can tell which one just by a Google search. You can figure out which two it is nowadays.
Yeah, that's broad knowledge now.
Yeah.
You can Google anything, which is...
But during that time, not very well known. You wouldn't really be able to get your hands on anything like that. Mm-hmm. So that, the whole like scorn lover, I'm like, no, I don't think so. Like, he just decides to commit suicide because this girl rejected him with a rare freaking poison.
Yeah,
that isn't detectable.
That wouldn't make sense to me. Plus, he wasn't able to be identified if they were, like, lovers or something. Other people she knew would know him.
Yeah, like, that's just true.
Like, you can't hide that.
So, the other theory, which I find cool and would totally be a cool movie, is that he's a spy.
Oh my gosh, Spy X Family.
Is that he's a spy and that he put the "it is finished" because his job is finished, but... One is that he knew too much, so someone killed him and then placed his body where it is. Or two, he knew too much. He knows too much, and he doesn't want to give away anything, so he...
Like the Hail Hydra guy from the Captain America movies.
Yeah, so he winds up killing himself to keep that information secret, and that the words for the Persian words of finished is like a key for the rare edition of the book.
I like that theory.
And that's why there's a
too.
code on the back of the book too, to try to figure it out and decipher it, but no one's been able to do such a thing currently, even after like 70 years of this being unsolved.
See, spies are so weird because it's something that I would think I would be able to know a lot about these days, but that's the whole point of a spy, is that you're not going to know a spy's secrets, so I'm never going to fully understand how spies work.
Mm-hmm. And the thought of the woman fainting is that she's also like an undercover moment or whatever, and that she knew him and just fainted from, or she wasn't at all a spy, just recognized him as someone else, but maybe got death threat or something along the lines of like, don't you dare, and then just sealed lips was another theory that was there.
Not that like you should like enjoy like theories on how a person passed away, but
There's
that one
nothing
makes
there.
yeah, that one would make the most sense is the spy one because there's so many things when it comes to like trying to cover up someone who existed as like your child's father. That's you
Yeah, no.
can't that's there's too much that goes into that, especially at that time.
It is weird that he bought tickets, though, to something that he wouldn't use if he really did kill himself.
I guess it could make sense though if someone's tracking him though to like make it seem like oh well I'm going over here and then it throws them off.
Wait, his suitcase was left at the train station. He has a train ticket and a bus ticket. I wonder if anything else was at the bus station.
That's a good question.
There was nothing there. I didn't get anything that mentioned the bus.
That's what I'm
What if
thinking.
there
I think he
was?
might have like if he was a spy, maybe he was throwing them off and being like, "Oh, look, I made, I purchased tickets to go over here." And so they're going to go check that train or try to follow him on that train,
Yeah.
and then he's not there because he offed himself.
But it is weird that he threw the book, if it is a key, into a random person's car.
Yeah.
If this really did take place to where he did, like, end his own life for the purpose of, like, why did you put it in some random car? Did he get confused, maybe?
Gave it to an accomplice maybe and then
Maybe.
told them whenever it's the right time, put it in a place where the authorities will be able to find it.
Maybe? Maybe he just hoped that these people would know exactly just to hand it in or something.
Maybe.
Or hoping someone had eyes on him whenever he tossed it in and they just didn't get there in time or something. I don't know.
I don't know. There's so many questions here. That's so cool. I've never heard of that guy.
Yeah, he's fun. Like, I'm like, what?
I think he was a spy.
I think he's a
I
spy.
think he's a spy.
It's just weird.
That
It's
makes-
just all weird.
That makes me want to go into a rabbit hole about spies. Like, how much do we actually know about
I
spies?
wonder, okay, he was smoking a cigarette. Like, they found one that was already lit. I wonder if that had the poison in them. I wonder if they checked the cigarettes.
Oh, that's a good question. Because that's like a thing that, people try to do in movies a lot.
Yeah.
It's like, I think in the Saw movie, the guy tries to dip. They think that the guy that's on the floor poisoned himself or something, or that there was poison in that guy's system. So he dips the end of the cigarette in the blood, and then the other guy pretends to be poisoned.
Oh. Man, I wonder.
So many questions. That's so cool though. If you want us to go into a rabbit hole about more like potential spy stories, let us know in the comments because this has like my brain going into overdrive right now. I'm so curious. I think he was a spy. I want to think he's a spy. That's
I'm gonna
just
think
really
he's a
cool.
spy.
He's a spy.
He's very dapper. Very James Bond like.
Yes. Is that all the information? that
Yeah,
they
that's
have
all I
on
got.
it? Wow.
There is of recentness of going on. They said that there was one witness that saw another man carrying a man over their shoulders, but it contradicts with some of the other witnesses. So
it sounds like a guy that wanted attention.
yeah, so it's like
Unless
that
all the
one doesn't make
witnesses,
sense.
are covers.
All of them are good.
All of them are covered. Here, now I'm getting into conspiracy brain.
Right. And then later on, because they took his DNA for, further advancement of technology, you gather all that you can kind of deal. And they did DNA test that they think is linked to a man named Charles/Carl Webb, who was a local at the place, but he was an engineer. Like, I don't know. That seems like a lot of weird stuff happening for just a local engineer.
Yeah.
And how do you get his stuff from America?
Yeah, that's the part that gets me is the American part because like that's why it would make sense if he was like an American spy posing as something else because
Yeah.
they're if you're a spy you go everywhere.
Oh, and that could make it even worse because it's going to make the news.
Mhm.
And so now, even if you're across the country, oh, I see. Okay. Cool. Like, they made a
Wow.
widespread search for this book.
Dang.
So,
That's so cool though. I wish we had more answers, but honestly, it's also cool that we don't because there's so many questions.
I'm like, who is this man? Can you imagine, though, it's just somebody that just wants to confuse people? It is just a normal guy, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to make my life a spy movie.
I'm going out with a bang. I'm going to have so many questions. I'm going to give my friend Larry this book, and he's going to put it in someone's car. After a while, eventually someone will have a car that's unlocked that they can just chuck it into.
I just made this poison that they won't detect at all. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
Can you imagine?
That'd be so weird.
I'm going to use all my life savings to do this.
Yes. Well, if you like this story and you want to hear more unexplained, found people, let us know in the comments. I'm sure there's more weirdness out there that we just haven't discovered yet, and we'll definitely go down the rabbit hole for you to go look for it.
100%. I was down. I was like, what is this man? He's cool. I hope you found it interesting.
Yes, if you found it interesting, please like and subscribe. Right now, we're currently on YouTube. We're eventually going to get to where we upload these, so you can find us on Spotify and different podcasting networks. So we're working on that right now. We're just taking little bites at a time so that we don't go too far and then, content isn't consistent and all that fun stuff. So let us know if you really are into this and you really want us to start uploading. We'll start trying to prioritizing that more for podcasting.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let us know in the comments what you enjoyed. Give us likes, subscribe. I already said that. It's okay.
It's okay. You always need the reminders.
Yes, and we hope to see you next time.
Bye.